So today I'm interviewing Jana Fahry. Jana is a self-published author. She's published 2 books, The Soul Trek and The Soul Trek 2, which are true stories, which begins in the Himalayas. She travels to Kathmandu, Nepal, to live in a Buddhist monastery to become a nun. She meets a man she recognizes from a past life as a strong karmic connection, opens up the psychic ability to see energy, read thoughts, and be a channel of twin flame soul energy connection. It's a story of sacred journeys, soulmates, and soul choices, recognition, purpose, energy, and psychic powers, the heart chakras, and the power of love. The Soul Trek 2 is a journey through lifetimes of culture and realities. Think Eat, Pray, Love meets The Time Traveler's Wife. Jana was born in Moscow, USSR in 1985. Her intuitive ability had led her to a life of awareness with her twin soul on the other side of her spirit guide. She has traveled South and Central America, Southeast Asia, China, Mongolia, and Russia with him. Wrote 3 books and channeled hundreds of angel paintings. Jana continues to bring Buddhist teachings, awareness through knowledge of karmic astrology, spiritual art, and energy healing everywhere she goes. Welcome, Jana. Thanks for sharing your spiritual journey today.
Thanks for having me.
So I loved reading your books. They were both compelling and enthralling as you intertwined your love story with spiritual teachings. So tell me a bit more about what happened before you embarked on the journey to Tibet. What culminated into making the decision to go there in the first place?
I wanted to dedicate my life to spiritual practice, and it felt in my heart that it was going to be in the world of Buddhism, because I was studying Buddhist teachings with a spiritual teacher for I think 5 years before then, and I wanted to take it to the next level. It felt like the right thing to do, to go to Nepal and study where it began. And that's why I went there.
Mm-hmm. And when you went to the monastery and you met James for the first time, why do you think it was such a karmic connection with him?
Because the minute I saw him, when our eyes met, it felt like a vortex of energy between us, and something in the eyes when we looked into each other's eyes. That was an indescribable sense of familiarity and knowing who he is, which was so akin to who I was in my heart. And I could feel how we were like just connecting on so many levels suddenly, so very quickly.
So in the book, it sounds like it was all very consuming for you, having this deep love and this deep connection with James. What was it like to live with that in your world, in your conscious mind?
I was like living in a beautiful world of beautiful imaginary world, I guess, of beauty and soul connection and ultimate knowing, just a lot of love that you feel for somebody who is you in a way, or a reflection of you. At the time I would think I would relate to him as another part of me. That was just in a different body, and I felt like I knew him so well. That felt very special.
Mm-hmm. And what it felt also, from what I was reading, it was quite taunting as well. But because what did it create for you from this deep love with James?
So definitely the desire to see the world, definitely to understand spiritual teachings of different civilizations. That it gave me a lot of answers to why I was feeling that connection in the first place. It was the drive to find answers. Definitely a lot of creativity. I've painted, I don't know how many, maybe 200, 300 paintings of consciousness, of him, of our connection. And definitely gave me almost like a new career, as a painter, as an artist, as a writer, and a whole project that I love sharing with the world. And hopefully that will inspire and help other women who also feel a similar connection, and they don't feel like they understand why it's happening to them, where they feel a guy on a deeper level and he does not.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like, the unrequited love wasn't, there was a lot more to it, and all this creativity came from it. How do you feel when you look back at it now and you talk about James? What emotions come up?
I think it's a beautiful creation of my mind when I look back at it. I know it's good that it happened. It's good that I met him because of everything that I've created because of that connection. Yet I feel at a level of awareness to understand that the mind is the creator of all of it. Even the psychic power, specifically the soul connection that we think we feel, the reflection in another person that we think we see and is supposed to heal us, but it's really not. Definitely a lot of gratitude for I guess triggering me to do all those great things, and being almost like a trigger or a vehicle, a growth vehicle. Definitely a lot of gratitude and a lot of maturity looking back.
And elaborate more on some of the interactions you've had with James since that aren't necessarily in your books.
So when the book came out in the States, he wanted to talk about it. He wanted to see me and discuss it, and we were going to meet up, but I wasn't ready to see him. To me, it would be a disillusion, or it would feel too real, I guess, to see him again afterwards, even though I really wanted to. So I sabotaged it. I decided not to go and see him. And we talked here and there a bit, a couple times for a couple of years, and at some point I understood I was fantasizing again about him, which was very unhealthy, and had to stop it.
Mm-hmm. And tell me a bit more about your struggles with, you mentioned any sort of anxiety, depression, that, that was also woven into this.
Yeah. At the time, when I met him, I was definitely dealing with a lot of depression or post-depression and anxiety, and also bipolar, and which is in frequency. It's very similar to when you feel triggered by someone who cannot reciprocate. They actually trigger all of these disorders within you. And looking back, I think, it's unhealthy and wrong to spiritualize these disorders. Like, don't, when you're immature, when you're studying spirituality, I think we tend to make up a lot of things that aren't real and never will be, and that's bordering psychosis. So if I'm honest, then this journey just took me back to having to fully deal with to really deal with those disorders of the mind.
Mm-hmm. And in the second book, you go to first journey of Southeast Asia. Tell me more why you decided to go to Southeast Asia and what was the experience like for you there?
So because in the first book, James, he was traveling through Southeast Asia. I felt like I would find my answers if I went to Southeast Asia, if I visited the temples that he had visited, if I had talked to the monks that he talked to, if I had taken those retreats or understood something about something. And it was great, like all traveling throughout Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, all through China. It was just so incredible. I really did feel all those connections that my mind made up about him. I really did feel like that love and consciousness was there again, and it's ever present. Especially in China, especially in the Buddhist places, the Taoist places. And actually in the second book, I did meet a guy who was very, very similar to him, which was another like proof of projection of how your mind, creates all of these events. Another guy that I really connected with, and we had a brief romance, but it wasn't even close to what I had for James. But it was a healing in a way, because that guy could give me something that James couldn't. That was more real and tangible. And just all of Southeast Asia was incredible, especially the Buddhist places. Mongolia as well. There's a lot of Buddhist places in Russia that are very special, and just the whole journey felt like, a purpose, like I'm supposed to be somewhere at a specific time to end this madness, to end this story. It was great.
And tell me a bit more about the transition from Southeast Asia, and then how that led you to go on another exploratory journey through Africa.
So a couple of years after my books, the first one and the second one came out, I was continued to do a lot of art and a lot of art showcases, and I started doing Kundalini yoga, and I was very, very, disconnected from the real world, very into my spiritual practice. And I realized that it was unhealthy to live like that, and I needed to ground myself. So I decided to ground myself by going to Africa and to survive, because that's what grounding is. Survival is the first chakra, and if your higher chakras are out of balance, then you need to bring yourself down. So Africa was the ultimate solution for me. And I traveled all through Cairo to Cape Town for 4 months, and I was sick every day for the 4 months, but it was very grounding. And by the end of my journey, it's like, whatever you put your mind to, you will achieve. It was over for me. There was nothing else to take from that connection with him. And ultimately, I guess it's because I knew that he was never meant to make a life partner for me. He was meant to trigger me to do something great for my life, which at the time it was definitely travel the world. And after Africa, I would have visited pretty much all the countries I ever wanted to on the 5 continents of the world.
Mm-hmm. And how did the people in the different cultures serve you in awakening you and adding to your experience?
So most of the ones that I would meet in the monasteries, in the streets, most of them were just actually not helping. Most of them were not awakened to a level of that I was, the kind of answers that I was looking for. They just came to me. It's like at some point I just knew. So it wasn't like a person gave me an answer. It just, I just understood it at some point. It came to me. But it definitely had to do with the places that I would visit. Not the people that I talked to. Definitely not.
Mm-hmm. And what would you like to share from what you learned spiritually, emotionally, and physically?
Continue your spiritual path. Be certain in your mind. Have a strong mind. This is what I would say is the most important thing. To have a strong mind and to have a clear mind, which is the ultimate Buddhist teaching. To have a clear mind, free from delusion.
That's very beautiful. Thanks, Jana. And what are you working on right now?
I'm working on spreading my message, bringing it to a bigger audience, sharing my story and my project, which is Soul Trek books and Soul Trek art. This one here is one of my latest paintings. And I continue to do karmic astrology readings, which is a life purpose reading, can give you great answers that is based on your birth time and place. That's about it.
And before we finish off, is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners that you think is important?
Diet. It's very important to eat a healthy diet and to give yourself like fasting days or at least intermittent fasting. It's a very important part of a spiritual practice. Drink a lot of water, eat less, exercise more.
Thanks, Jana. Thanks for sharing your experiences with us. And all the best with everything you're working on now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.